Since the 1980s, Japanese animation, particularly that which has been influenced by Western pop culture, has become huge in the Western world. Every decade from the 80s until now has had at least one anime that's provided a generation with joy. Here's a list of 10 anime series that will bring a nostalgic tear to your face. Let us know what your favorites are, and remember to push that red button to subscribe for more. Pokemon. While not the most popular anime overall, Pokemon is certainly the anime to do the best in the Western world. Beginning in 1997, not long after the games were released, the show was originally only intended to last a short while. Instead, it took off just as massively as the games it was based on, and has been going for 20 straight years. With its iconic characters and monster designs, even middle-aged adults who never grew up with the show are able to recognize Pikachu, Charizard, and Team Rocket thanks to the influence the show has had. With it appearing absolutely everywhere for such a long period of time, it's hard to imagine a world without Pokemon. And that's without mentioning its beloved title sequence, which everyone knows the words to. While it's brought joy to countless people, we can only imagine how annoying it must have been for those who were just never caught in the fad. Digimon Adventure. Digimon is an anime that's still beloved, although not quite as iconic as Pokemon. While it never took off as well as a franchise, the anime is generally considered to be superior to Pokemon for its heavy focus on its plot and characters, as well as having a very clear beginning, middle, and end. Despite endless comparisons due to the similarity of the name, Digimon isn't really that similar to Pokemon. The show was tense, but funny, dark, yet still lighthearted. It also challenged us as kids to deal with real issues that can affect children, such as parental divorce, adoption, and complex morals such as when it's safe to tell a lie. Yet, it did it all without ever having a very special episode, or shoving it down the audience's throat. It treated us like adults, something very few kids shows at the time were willing to do. Hajime no Ippo. Hajime no Ippo does for kids today what Rocky did for kids in the 80s, getting them interested in the sport of boxing. While the franchise has been going since the 80s, it's only in recent years with the advent of the internet that it's become very widespread in the US. It tells the relatable story of a young boy who escapes a life of being bullied by boxing. It not only has a great cast of characters of whom you always support in their fights, but it brings legitimate boxing technique to its animation. It helps that the manga the show is based off of was written by someone heavily involved in the world and science of boxing. Every punch is drawn precisely with huge attention to proper boxing form, and while stylized for the sake of entertainment, the show always does a good job of making sure the audience understands our protagonist's strategy going into the fight. Sailor Moon. Sailor Moon is a fair bit older than Pokemon and Digimon, and certainly went for a different target audience, but it's rare to see guys that didn't see some of the show growing up, and girls absolutely loved it. Following the Sailor Scouts, Sailor Moon is a show that many feel was ruined in dubbing, as while the Japanese original version had good writing, more interesting characters, and even an openly gay couple, the US dub felt the need to remove a lot of this and make the lesbian couple cousins, which is all kinds of disgusting. While the US dub is certainly what most of our viewer base will remember, it's the original Japanese version that invokes nostalgia for us. It had a mature streak that US audiences just weren't ready for at the time. We can't be too mad at the dub though, as while it made some abysmal changes, it did introduce the West to the characters and to the franchise. Dragon Ball. Dragon Ball is definitely aiming more towards the Hajime no Ippo market. It's a testosterone-filled gruntathon with astonishingly muscle-bound characters that have been the envy of preteen boys for generations. Not only has it had a widespread influence on animation as a whole, but it's even gone as far as to influence young, dorky men into getting into the gym, embracing physical fitness and exercise to be as healthy and strong as they possibly can be. Any show that can inspire people to become fit and strong without lecturing the audience is alright by us. And we haven't even touched upon the numerous abridged parodies of the show floating about the internet. It's a steroid-infused, crazy show, and it has stood the test of time by being around for over 30 years. Rock the Dragon. Cardcaptors. While aimed primarily at girls, Cardcaptors is an anime that did a pretty good job of attracting boys by not being too overtly girly in its aesthetic. Rather than being a show primarily concerned with girl stuff, Sakura could throw down and she would crush on boys but didn't constantly drool over them like you'd see characters in Sailor Moon. Riding the waves of Pokemania, this show managed to win over countless fans in the UK by appearing in the same programming block. The premise was simple. There's an ancient book of magical cards. Sakura opens the book and they come to life and appear all around town. It's up to Sakura to capture the cards and become the master of the cards. While it's a relatively simple premise, it made up for it by having fun characters as well as Keroberos, who is hands down our favorite mentor character in anime. Lupin the Third. Originally concocted in the 60s, Lupin III has been adapted to anime numerous times. It was first adapted in 1971, then was followed by continuation series throughout the 70s and 80s, and most recently in 2015. Lupin III has been damn near inescapable. Not only are the manga and anime adaptations everywhere, but it even spawned its own live-action movie adaptation, which everyone hated. On the upside though, Lupin endures to this day, with new kids taken to watch the show and cosplaying as the character at various conventions. While it won't hold the same nostalgic value for some of our younger viewers, if you're older than 20, it's easy to get misty-eyed thinking about the red-clad #1 thief. Kinnikuman. Since the 1980s, there have been numerous anime adaptations of the Muscle Man, meaning that every generation of kids has their own interpretation of the character. It also has probably the manliest concept for any TV show around. Kinnikuman, who is a superhero, must prove his worth by entering a real-life, non-fake, professional wrestling tournament. Each opponent he faces has their own unusual and wacky powers, and unlike Hajime no Ippo and Dragon Ball, the violence is pretty cartoony. If the anime itself doesn't bring back memories, the toys certainly will. The numerous Muscle Men toys, which you would stack up and throw at each other, were hugely popular in the 90s, and kids were doing their best to collect all of them before Pokemon ever arrived on the scene. Cowboy Bebop. Most anime has its basis in a pre-existing source material, be it a video game or most commonly a manga. Cowboy Bebop, however, has the distinction of being a critically acclaimed and universally beloved anime that was created specifically for the medium. With similarities to both James Bond and the TV show Firefly, Cowboy Bebop was an interesting blend of Western, science fiction, and neo-noir. Not only did it have an incredible cast of characters and a driven, focused storyline, but it even has the decency to end. There was no dragging out for further series and cash grabs. It's a story with a concise beginning, middle, and end. If you were watching this show as a kid, you probably shouldn't have been. It was not a kid's show, but that didn't stop us from watching it on Adult Swim when our parents thought we were asleep. It's a brilliant work of art, and we love it. One Piece. Our final place goes to One Piece, which is not only one of the most successful animated series of all time, it's also based on the most successful manga ever produced. A manga so successful that it's behind only Batman and Superman in overall comic sales, and it looks set to overtake them very soon, despite them both existing for half a century longer. Its anime adaptation has had similar dominance, with nearly 800 episodes at the time of recording. It follows the pirate Luffy, his unreasonably elastic body, and his crew of shipmates as they sail the seas. It's known for its sense of humor and downright unusual cast of characters. It's a show that creates some ludicrous looking people and then fleshes them out with very real and often tragic backstories. Debuting on screen in 1999, some of our older viewers might not have had the opportunity to watch the show growing up as a kid, but it's well worth watching at least the first few episodes to test the waters. Well, that's all we have time for today. What are the animes that you grew up with? Leave a comment and let us know. If you like this video, give us a thumbs up and check out the rest of our channel. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to CBR for cool videos about movies, action heroes, gaming, comics, and more.